Hello, everybody, and welcome to this latest in the ValuesJam guest session series. And Shweta, great to have you here. And to start with, please share with everybody who you are and the great work that you do.
Thank you so much, Alan. It's a complete pleasure to be here and be a part of your Values Jam this day. I'm a part of a board of director of this association called Alive. It is Association of Living Values Education. It is a Swiss NGO. And besides that, I'm also a burnout coach where I link values with burnout. And for the last year, I've been a part of Values20, which is a part of G20 Summit. I was heading their basic education stream and holding a lot of workshops, connecting people to their inner self and finding out who they are. And because I totally believe in the world we're living in, it's high time to realize what we hold. It's surprising when I come across people and I tell them, "Hi, I'm Shweta, and I am a peaceful being." And they look at me like, "Is that so? There's nothing more to you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, what do you do for education? What do you do for work, for living?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, I'm a facilitator, and I'm an interior decorator." And they're like, "Okay, okay, fine." So they think that I'm a little crack up there, but that's the world we're living in. People don't like it when I address them. "Oh, Alan, you're such a respectable person." And you're like, there's much more to me than just being respectful. So I make people realize that it's good to be known as a positive, responsible, happy person than being known as a famous doctor, because you might be earning millions, but there's no happiness inside. So
Wow.
I do that kind of work for individuals, for corporates, in schools, and a lot of parents, as we have a lot of imbalance in how schools bring about value education in school and how parents bring about values at home. So there is a serious disconnect. So I bring everyone at par, making them realize the reality and the hard facts. So that's me for you today.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing. I mean, there's already so much that you said that I could pick up on, but we're here to have a values jam. So I'll just choose one thing. We had a Values Jam deep dive conversation recently into the topic of education. And the question that I asked the group to think about and then answer was, how much focus does there need to be on parents in education? Because, you can teach the children as much as you like, but if they go home and then their parents are either ignoring that or even worse, contradicting it, then you've got a big challenge there, right?
Very true. Because for me, I run this program called Values at Inception, where I believe that values begin from womb. A happy mother leads to a happy child. A happy parenthood leads to a positive childhood. Because what's happening in school is separate. We can just put that away. But we are our child's first teachers. And we need to watch our actions, reactions, behavior, because that's what our child is carrying to school.
Dead right.
Angry, like I very often use this example, is a bully is not born a bully, right? He's seen somebody being undermining him or treating him that way at home or in his immediate surroundings,
Yeah,
that he's coming to school or going, out and showcasing the same values or, whatever you would say, his behavior, because he wants to take that frustration and that stress out on somebody else. And here, hence, he shows it around where he can throw his weight around.
yeah. There's a lady that I know in the US called Yaz, and she uses an acronym for child. So each letter stands for a word, right? So
Right.
child is, for her, copy, how I live daily. And
Wow.
she says that's, as parents, if we just remember that, then it would serve us well.
Very
Um,
true.
and, the other thing, probably the most important job that we do in our lives is be a parent. And yet we receive no training and no development and no investment in our ability to be a very good parent. And that seems, just forgetting it's about parenthood and all the rest of it. But if something is so important, why would you not make sure that people are good at it?
That's the saddest reality, because when I approach schools and they send, those circulars home that there is a parental workshop happening, we've had people coming and blasting us. Like, I have a colleague, we both used to work together, and they would be like, what do you know? Are you going to teach us what my values are? So we would just ask them and, beg them, please, can you give us some time? Let us explain what we've got to say. And Alan, you won't believe, when they left the session, they were like teary. They had tears in their eyes, and they're like, we were living in a world of illusion.
Yeah,
We were just copying what everybody around was doing, thinking this
yeah,
is the best for for our children. This is the best for me, not realizing how much
yeah,
harm am I creating. That my child, the moment I get inside the house, my child's just finding ways to sneak out of the house. The
well,
moment, you want to create an environment where an employee loves going to work,
yes,
where a child loves coming to school, loves spending that time, with the family over the weekends or whatever. So, but how? People have forgotten how to live. It's all about money, money, and money, which is a sad reality.
yeah. And at the most basic level, there's some people that I know, the parents don't get on very well and
Yes.
they argue a lot in the home. And then the mother recently said, my boy, who's like 6 years old, is becoming really difficult because he just challenges everything that is asked and causes an argument. And I couldn't say it, but the reason why is because that's what he sees and that's the environment, and to him that's normal. So why would you not, copy how I live daily?
Very true.
I
They
wonder
will
what card.
imitate you.
I wonder what card we're going to get, because I wonder if it's
Oh, I'm
related to
excited.
any of this conversation. So first thing to do, I'm just going to shuffle the cards a little bit, but then
For sure.
what I'd like you to do is tell me to make so many piles in front of me. So how many piles shall I make?
Okay, three,
Three. Okay. And I'll make them different sizes.
for sure.
So I've got three. So on pile one is on my left, pile three is on my right, and obviously two is in the middle. So which pile would you like?
The middle one, the 10th card.
10th card. Thank you. Okay. So this is the card you've chosen.
Ambition. Okay.
Why that reaction?
No, because we just spoke about money, money, and money. So people today are all about, reaching their goals, reaching what they desire at the cost of losing everything.
Okay, so let's start with the very basic question that is always at the beginning of a values jam, and there are two parts to this. One is technical, and the other is more imaginative. So, what does ambition mean? That's the first part of the question. And then, secondly, if you think about images, what does it look like? Or feelings, what does it feel like? Or sounds, what does it sound like? So, give us an introduction into ambition with those two different perspectives.
So, ambition for me is something which I dream, which I desire to become, right? And how does it sound is something which brings a sparkle in my eye, something which excites me. And I thrive on just thinking about it. That's what ambition is.
Okay, say a bit more.
Uh, it's also my purpose in of life, what I aim to achieve. And yeah, that it my I can say that maybe my I surround my life around it, and I do things in a way that I can achieve it in a most positive way. They are my
And
dreams, they are my goals, they are my desires, which I aim to achieve in the most happy, healthy, positive way.
it's just listening to your start there, because you were talking about desires and ambitions, things that you want, I suppose. And I guess when you just mentioned just now about money, 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 I suppose I've still got that kind of in my mind. And all of that's made me think that maybe when we think about ambition, we think about it at quite a transactional level. So
Very
by
true.
that, I mean, oh, it's my ambition to own a fancy car or a big house or to have an expensive watch. These are ambitions. Um, but if you move beyond the transactional, it could also be your ambition to live your life with purpose or be true to
Absolutely.
your values in
Very
all
true.
situations, right? So I
True.
wonder, maybe it's easier for people to be more transactional than it is, because I suppose people might say, well, if you're true to your values, if that's your ambition, that's a bit vague. How do I know what it is that you're going to be doing? So, what do you think about that relationship between sort of more defined and transactional, and then less defined, but perhaps giving us the freedom to be truer to ourselves?
So, Alan, for me, I believe in working inwards first, right?
Right?
For me, money can come, it will come if I'm doing it the right way, right? If I'm peaceful, if I'm loving, if I'm respectful, I will achieve my ambition while living all the other dreams of having a happy life, having a happy family, having a um, maybe buying a good car. But what if I've bought that car, fighting with everybody, not living those valuable, that spending that valuable time with my family, with my friends, cherishing those moments which matter more.
Yeah. And so
So,
I don't know why this has popped into my head. I hope it doesn't say something bad about me. But you've made me think of a competition of some kind, maybe a race. So imagine two people and they've got to complete a race. And one person maybe puts something bad into the other person's food, so it makes them sick on the race. So this person wins the race, right? So they've realized their ambition to get the gold medal or whatever it is. But for the rest of their life, they will remember what they
there
did.
is that guilt.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so in other people's eyes, yes, they will have won the race. But in their own eyes, probably they have not won that race, right? And to be able
Yeah.
to deal with that must be really a big challenge. So where am I going with this? I suppose it's backing up what you said. If the cost of realizing your ambition is to give you trauma going forward, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Like with your car example, if you've had to fight everybody.
Absolutely. Alan, it's surprising. I don't know how the thought process is. Like I met this gentleman the other day and we were just having a normal conversation with him. I was just having a normal conversation and I was like, okay, what does life look like? How do you spend your time and things like that? To my shock, the gentleman turns around and says, well, people will come and go. Money is what I need. This time will not come. And I need to use this time to make money. That is my goal and that is my ambition. To that, I was like, well, I appreciate that. How old are your children? Do you have a family? And he goes, yes. And so you don't have any regrets that you just involved in, just earning money and there's nothing beyond that in your life? And then the reply was, well, money can buy everything, right? So if I have money, I can buy expensive gifts. I can buy, a good life. And I was like, what about the emotional connection? Don't you feel that tomorrow your children are not going to be there? Your spouse may or may not be with you having this kind of an attitude. And the gentleman's reply again shocked me was like, when you have so much of money, you have just people just keep flowing in. So that was the thought process.
Yeah. There's so many stories that you've made me think of. I'll just share a few of them quickly. I used to work with a guy, so I worked in the corporate world for a long time before I decided to leave it. And I remember a guy that I worked with. One day we were in a meeting that went on into the evening, and he just mentioned in conversation that he was supposed to go to a play that his children were in at their school, but he couldn't go because of this meeting. And then when the meeting finished, everybody arranged to go to the pub, normal kind of thing. And I remember saying to him, he was very senior, very well paid. And I asked him why he did his job and why he needed so much money. And he said, oh, it's so I can spend more time with my children. And yet, just a couple of hours before, he had explained why he had made a choice not to do that, right? Um, yeah, so but it's, and
Very, very,
it's kind of tempting, isn't it? Because money, again, going back to that first point, it's tangible and you know that you've got a lot of money. Whereas people might say, well, how do you know how happy you are or how peaceful you are or content you are? So has anybody ever asked you that?
yeah, it's all a matter of, there is a I always teach this practice of gratefulness.
Hmm.
Until the time you're not grateful, I always, even to my children, I always teach them to look down. Fine, you aspire to look up, but don't forget to look down. Today, if you're having a chocolate, you don't like it, think before throwing it in the dustbin,
Yeah,
right? Because there are so many others who will fish it out of that bin and eat.
yeah,
So, till the time you're not grateful for what you have, you can't ever be happy in your life. So, practicing gratitude, every level, it's that greed which we all are in, right? We've all got into this rat race of, okay, I've become a manager, now senior manager, now director, now CEO. And so it's never that hunger never finishes to keep going higher. And
yeah.
in the bargain, we stop enjoying life. We stop enjoying breathing in that fresh air, that smell of the rain, raindrops, just having fun. We've forgotten all the basics because we have our dreams have become so, it's all over the place. I wouldn't call that person a normal person. That's why I always believe in working inwards. You know, I take this example of an apple, right?
Mhm.
It has the core, you have the outer skin, then you have the inner skin and then the seeds. But if the seed, what all of us are living a life where we just polishing the outermost layer. And apple, the more you shine, more you rub it, the shinier it becomes, right? But when you cut it, the core is rotten, the
Yeah,
seed is rotten. We
yeah.
all walking around with a fake smile, showing we're very happy. Oh, I drive a BMW. Oh, I live in a 7-bedroom house. I travel. But if we stop to ask ourselves, am I genuinely happy?
Hmm.
Is
And
that ambition? Sorry.
to what extent do you think this is constructed? Because I'm just thinking that if everybody was just content with simple things and didn't need the big house and the car and the watch and everything else, then businesses wouldn't be needed as much. So, to what extent do you think this is actually a construct made by business to generate profit at the expense of normal people?
It is. I'm with you on that. It's all peer pressure. It's all out of the uh the want, you know.
Yeah,
There's no need, but it's just a
it's a
want,
want. Yeah,
right? So it's all peer pressure, jealousy, not having that contentment, like you said. And for that, again, we need to keep looking into who am I? Am I
yeah,
contented with what I have? Or just because my neighbors bought a new car, now I need a new job. I need to look, dig into what my, ambition now is. I've had people around me, I have very few friends for the same reason, because I don't believe in living a pseudo life. I am what I am, and I am very straightforward. So anybody trying to compete with me, anybody trying to affect me, they just say, I think she's a little crack-minded because I'm very stable. You are coming to my house showing, hey, I got a new car, let's go for a spin. I think, well, that's nice. I feel, congratulations, and I love it, and this and that. And I just leave it at that.
yeah.
And then they're like, Shweta, doesn't it bother you? Doesn't it ask you to work harder and, set higher targets or ambitions or goals? I was like, no. Why? You can't be happy if you keep looking at, hey, I got a 2 carat solitaire, the other one's wearing 5 now, again, start working.
And
Right?
I
So,
last week and for recently, I've been on jury service, and so we were together. There were only 11 of us in the end, but we were together for nearly 4 weeks, most days during the week. So you get to know each other. And one of the other guys was telling me that he had been on a holiday I think it was in Mexico, and it was a place where there were lots of Americans. And he told a story about how these Americans met. So they're strangers. And he said the conversation went something along the lines of, hi, I'm name, who are you, name, what job do you have, job title, how much do you earn, uh, and what car have you got, and how much did it cost? And it's like, really? When it gets to be that explicit and overt,
Yeah.
That's just really weird. And I suppose there's a cultural thing there as well, because we were saying, oh, in the UK, we would never be as rude as that. You know, we're always a bit polite. Um, but what about the other side of the coin, though? Because I sometimes, I, I want to be peaceful and happy and content in myself. But at the same time, one of my core values is excellence, and I want to do things really well, and I am still ambitious. And sometimes a little voice says, you know, if you turn down your ambition, then maybe you're not going to deliver as much as you're really capable of. So, how do you deal with that kind of feeling?
So, absolutely. You should always aspire high. Your ambition should be high. Aim to strive and work hard, right? For yourself, not to show to the world. What you're doing is for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when it comes to having a ambition where you're proving to the world something, that's not ambition. So, like, even I do that. I always keep a target for myself. This is my ambition. This is my goal. This is how I'm going to work. I journal. I write. I I basically put all my positives and negatives and everything. And at the end of the year, I go through that. I see where I achieved, where I failed, how I need to work, but all for myself. And
I just,
same as, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to. Sorry to interrupt, but I just want to maybe challenge you on one word that you've used there. You said where I've failed. I believe the word fail is not a good word.
No.
And it's often circumstance. And yet we tell ourselves that it was a failure. But it's only because things changed that the outcome was not what we had anticipated. So I mean, I'll just give you that to take away.
So there are a lot of learnings from failures.
Yes, for
I
true.
when I say I failed, I sit and analyze and I work on them. I don't regret any failures. I don't.
Okay,
Because for me, I take failures as becoming better, working on them. It's an opportunity to pick it up from where you dropped it and go further.
definitely. Well, well done you, because from what you're describing, you have a very different relationship with the word failure than is normal. You know, generally failure is accepted as something that's not good. Sometimes it's to be ashamed of, it's to be berated for, but no, because often it's just not what was expected. It's slightly different, and usually not down to the person. You know, we don't make mistakes on purpose. They just happen sometimes. Um, yeah, this is so. I
Very
think
true.
this is the longest that I've ever spent on like the first question, and we've kind of meandered a little bit, but it's been great. And I'm going to move us on to a very practical next question now to see where that takes us. So, where have you noticed a lack of ambition?
Um, it would be maybe stress, a lack
Right?
of the what affects the ambition, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because like what made me look into burnout was I am a mother of two, I manage my home, I manage outside, I manage my ambition. And it was becoming too much to an extent that it reached a point where my ambition, my goals were taking a back seat, whereby I was more of a mother and homemaker. And then it wasn't that I wasn't happy, but it wasn't giving me that fulfilling feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because for me, my self respect is what makes a lot of it. That's the first thing which I am responsible for myself, right? And I somehow feel if you're not there, just doing these chores doesn't get you that respect. So,
Do you know, it's just in the last few minutes then, just now you said work hard was one of the things that you said. And now you're talking about respect. And I've just been asked to be featured in a an executive magazine, and there's an article, and they ask a number of questions just to help them write the article. And one of the questions was, "What advice would you give young people?" And I just wrote, "Be true to what you believe in, work hard, and remember that respect has to be earned." And that was it. I just thought that, it came very easily. That was the answer. And I think in the article it said, when asked about giving advice to young people, Alan's advice was um, expectedly practical and straightforward, or something like that. I think they were expecting some long philosophical answer rather than boom, boom, boom.
practical. No, that's very true.
But it's exactly the same as you, right? And it feels to me that I can imagine in your work, your clients would be saying, I feel when I work with Shweta that it's very practical and it helps me get things done, rather than, I know some coaches, it's like, go and read a book. And it's like, well, come on, what's that actually going to do?
Yeah, no, I'm with you because a lot of people, yes, we all read books, we all get value from there. But I don't believe in giving any jargons. I don't believe in what XYZ said. I talk about from my own practical experience.
Yeah,
So people can relate more when I talk about, a regular situation which is happening every day
yeah.
rather than read X book, go on page 85. This is exactly what you need.
I love
So,
this example. So, do you play sport at all?
yes, I right now I gym a lot, but in my school times, I was a state level swimmer.
Were you? Okay. Oh, well, swimming is a really good example, I think, because if you were advising somebody who had the ambition to learn to swim but could not, how much do you think it would help them to read a book written by a swimmer?
I would say it all comes from within, right? It is your self motivation. And in sometimes, yes, you are right. Some stories do motivate people of, read of how that person from a novice to a champion. But these days, I don't know whether you've experienced or not. These days, children don't read.
Okay, that yeah, I
They,
I I experienced that as well. I guess the point that I was trying to make was that reading about something doesn't actually help you with something as technical as swimming, right? You can read a book by
no,
an Olympic medalist swimmer,
yes,
but when you get in the water, it's not
it's a
going to help
different
you at
story.
all. Yeah. And so
It's a
what you
different
actually
story.
you actually need somebody like you who can swim and swim very well to be able to tell you how to move your arms, how to hold your chin, all of this, rather than read it in a book. So
Yes,
I'm supporting your very practical approach, I guess.
thank you. No, absolutely. There has to be, if like I did swimming and I was I never ever thought that I'm going to swim at state level. For me, swimming was just simple exercise, you know.
Hmm.
So, Alan, I come a little bit on my background. I come from a army background. My dad retired as a he's a doctor. He retired as a general from army in the Indian Army. So discipline was like the key importance in our house. He would never let us sleep beyond 7 a.m., even when it was holidays, because 6 o'clock my dad was off for golf and he would wake us up swimming, gymming, running, cycling, whatever you want out of the house. I don't want you to be sitting here and there. So it started like that. And I didn't even learn how to swim because it started with my dad just, coming with me and swimming to I was just clinging on to him. I would never swim to it reaching a point where when I was in grade one, I just he just said, okay, now this is your bicycle. You have to start going for swimming by yourself. Watching other people, how they was, swimming, their strokes, their leg coordination, how they flip. I started doing it. And then slowly, slowly, it became a passion where come winters, summers, heat, I would not see. I just wanted to swim. I would take my cycle and off. I would come back from school and I was off. And that discipline took me to this level. And I never dreamt, like I said, I always aim to, for me, being the best works. I never, decide that, okay, I want to be a world champion.
Yeah,
I will sit and watch Michael Phelps, his strokes, how he
yeah.
turns his face and how he breathes and all that. And then I would next day go and try the same thing in the pool. And slowly, slowly, I got it. So it was my perseverance and not giving up that I just kept going.
And you said bossy parents then, but I heard the fondness in your tone because from what you've just described, you're grateful for the way that they started your life with that
Indeed,
discipline, right?
indeed, I am very grateful to how they brought us up in such a loving, caring environment, which was it was a balance of discipline and love. There was no fear.
Yeah. And how do you think that fits with modern society? Because it feels to me, and I understand that part of this might be to do with being older and the generation gap, but when I hear of teenagers, sometimes young people that are older than that, staying in bed until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when you're talking about you never slept after 7, what's that all about?
So I think it's all about, like you said, the when you said your acronym of child, today there is no work-life balance. When you see a father working till 4 in the morning or 2 in the morning or 12 in the morning, waking up at 2, that's what the child's doing. They're aimlessly either sitting, watching, looking around when they see there's nobody to be with them.
Mm,
It's a common norm. I see so
mm,
many youngsters following the same trend because that's what's happening. Where the mother says, okay, I'm going to get up at 12 o'clock in the morning, so you manage your own breakfast. Well, I don't mind children managing their own breakfast, but you waking up at 12, is that okay? And that's a common, that's accepted for that. So I
mm.
think in that case, the generation today is all what they're seeing, you know.
I think you've just reminded me of when you were talking, you mentioned about when you do your program in schools with parents and the parents have this revelation because they didn't know before. I think this is a similar point that the child, if they're not given that discipline and the direction by their parents, then they're, I don't mean this in a bad way, but they are ignorant. They do not know anything different,
Yeah.
and so it's not their
No,
fault. It's just,
it's a normal thing for them.
yeah, Okay. Now, when we were talking before we started to record, I think you mentioned that in Values Jam, you have the chance to ask your own question. And so let's do that right now. So ask your own question about ambition, beginning with who, what, where, when, why, or how. And if you have the answer immediately, please do share that. Or you can just ask the question to me and then you can respond to what I say. So whichever you choose.
Okay, I think I've spoken enough, so I'll just give the question and let's hear you now. So, who, according to you, is has set an example in your life when it comes to achieving ambition, his or her ambition? They've probably left uh they're your idols.
Okay. So the first person that comes to mind was one of my bosses. And this was in a hotel environment. So I don't know if you know, but I started my career in hospitality. And my job was the assistant event manager at the London Intercontinental Hotel. So it's a big five-star hotel in central London, very large catering facilities. So we could do dinners for 700 people. And my boss was the operations director. So his job was not to organize the events so much with clients, it was to make sure that all of the details were delivered. So I remember this, it was a company called Foreign Airlines, and this is in probably in the 1980s, right? So we're talking quite a long time ago. And Foreign Airlines had a lunch for 36 people, and we had the room set up. And it was quite a busy day, both in the office on the phone and also events being delivered. And I received a phone call from somebody saying that they were supposed to be attending the event, but they were unable to make it. And for whatever reason, I forgot to tell my boss, the operations director. And after lunch had been served, he came into the office, closed the door, and said, "What do you think is going on?" And I didn't know what he was talking about. And then he had been told by the organizer that somebody had phoned the hotel, and I don't know how he worked out that they had spoken to me. He said, "You received a message from somebody who was supposed to be attending the lunch." "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" I said, "I'm really sorry, I forgot." And he said, "Do you realize the impact of what you've done?" And I hadn't really thought about it. And he said, "What we could have done was removed the place setting from the table, removed the chair, spread the places out. Nobody need to have known. But as it was, the only time we found out was when everybody sat down and there's an empty place, which we then had to deal with." And he said to me, "I was embarrassed." It was like such a telling off. But the reason I'm sharing that story now is because I realize how much hard work goes into making things the best they possibly can be. And if you don't care about those small details and realize the consequences, you will never deliver the very best. So he was meticulous and such a good teacher. So there's
Wow.
there's one, and there are many people that I've learned for in terms of ambition, but that sounds like maybe a really such a basic story, right? Maybe it's not very important, but to me at that time and ever
It's a
since
big
it
learning.
is. What about you? What about you? Who's inspired you through in the area of ambition?
So I think for me, it's always been my parents, both my mom and my dad. My mom's a child psychologist, and for me, it's just been how they've balanced everything. Like my dad, he was a doctor, he's had his emergencies, and he would rush to the hospital, but he never compromised on the family time. He never compromised on taking us for holidays. And my mom creating that balance of filling in when my dad was not around. Like my dad was even in Antarctica for 2 years. So
Gosh,
he was sent on an expedition for 2 years to Antarctic, and how she managed. I was like a year old, and I also have a sibling, a older brother, so we were like small kids. But she managed it so spotlessly that we never ever missed our dad, or we never, you know, we acknowledged everything. Like we were always grateful. We were taught to value others' time before our own time. If we were invited by somebody, we would make sure we were there 5 minutes early. We would not take it for granted. Send thank you notes to people who were kind to us. And those kind of small, small things, I think it just sets you apart. And I genuinely feel it when I see that now in my children, where when they go to school, in one corner, my daughters, just left a small note saying, I love you, mama, or thank you for the pancake, or whatever. So it just makes your day, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So I think for me, my parents are my role models.
Well, so you've reminded me of my mother now, and this is slightly different because while you were describing how they inspired ambition in you, my mum, so I was brought up in public housing, only my mum, so very humble beginnings. And I got a job in a hotel when I was 16, over the summer holiday. And I remember saying to my mum, I'm going to be uh, a general manager of a five-star hotel. Now, we had never been in a hotel, let alone a five-star hotel. But she didn't say, you can't, what are you crazy or
Yeah,
anything? She said, okay. And that was all because she couldn't give any advice. She had nothing to give, but it was okay. And I remember when I did become a general manager of a five-star hotel, it there was no kind of feeling of celebration or anything like that because it had always been meant to be since I was 16, and it was just okay. Well, this is what it is it? Um, so in a different way, by not quelling the ambition. So yours was an inspiration, whereas mine was a lack of knocking it down. But both are quite powerful, right?
indeed. Indeed.
So that feels like quite a natural place to draw this values jam to a close. And there's always a similar style question at the end, which is, what are you encouraged to do differently about ambition as a result of this conversation?
I think I just want to change the definition of ambition from money to more to working on your inner self, doing something which doesn't put anybody down, but brings that brings you in the most uh brings the best of you out of you. And there's no anger, there's no greed, there's no frustration, there's no jealousy. There's happiness because you are how you behave. You spread the same kind of vibrations as you breathe in. So when your ambition is on a positive, to achieve what you dream on a positive note, leaving the monetary transactions aside, You're just bringing up a positive world. Let it be
Yeah,
your
and
home, your work, wherever you go. It's positive.
it's great advice. And what I'm going to take away from this conversation is your description of a shiny apple, because ambition doesn't need to be shiny. It can be quite quiet, quite deep inside, but it doesn't make it any the less powerful or big, in fact. Um,
Indeed.
just because it's not shiny doesn't mean to say that it's not there. So I think when I'm thinking about ambition, I'm going to be thinking about that shiny apple and it not being needed. So thank you for that.
Very true. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, so you're a qualified values jammer now. I hope you enjoyed it and thank you so much.
Loved it. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to have this great discussion this today.
Thanks, Shweta.
Take care. Bye.